Alright, here I've got the same little table that has rows, table rows, and links that open up inside an iframe here. Over here to the right, I've got a few bank links. They open in a brand new tab. Here I've got a few emails. Here's W3 Schools, where you can learn about HTML tags and coding. I've got three libraries here. Lorraine Public Library. The Toledo Library would not open in the iframe, so I had to fix it. Well, I have to because I'm showing you right now that it will not open in the iframe. Tuscarawas Library does open in the iframe, but the Toledo doesn't. So if I go into my open bills and look for my Toledo library, I've got it set for target equals TV10, which that is the name that I gave my iframe. Well, since TV10 is not working, I have to go with the old underscore blank. What that does is it opens it up in a new tab. So let me hit refresh, go to the Toledo library, and voila, it's opening up in its own tab. You'll see that some websites open up inside the iframe while others refuse to. And then I've got electric, car, and cable. Those are websites where I can go and put in the password and check out the bills and yada yada yada. Up here at the top, we've got January all the way to December, and I have no pages for January. So you see you get this file not found. I actually have dashes for the name of the month, but since we're already in November, I'm not even going to deal with the rest of this year. I'm starting at November. I've got a page right here that shows some bills, and I've got December, a projection of 4 bills that I want to keep track of. The way I did this uh, was kind of monotonous and kind of repetitive. I wanted to be able to use cookies to actually take a checkbox and click it and turn this to green, which would indicate that I made a payment on that day. Red means not paid, green means paid. Cookies worked for 2 browsers. It worked for Safari and Firefox. It did not work for Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Opera. For what reasons, I don't know. Maybe if I had a different type of cookie code, it might have worked differently. But for whatever reasons or configurations, I didn't get it to work the way I wanted it to across the board. So what I'm winding up doing is having to go in the code underneath and make changes to certain attributes. For instance, in my December.html, if I just run that page itself, not in the iframe, but this is just the page itself, the code right here, some of the styles decide what kind of functionality you get. I have a style on each one of these TDs, table data cells, that let me use the checkbox or not. For instance, on the 29th, I have this checked and then I have the word disabled misspelled so that it doesn't work. So I can, let me take that back. Let me take that back. The 29th is actually hidden. It's inside a span tag, all of the goodies, the checkbox, the label for the checkbox, the button, and then these values, what's due, what's paid, what the balance is, and the next due date. All of that is actually hidden because of this class called hide. And if you go up here to .hide, which means class hide, you have visibility hidden. Then you have these styles that are the exact same styles: background color red, color white, border 7 pixels, red outset, width 100%, and height 100 pixels. The exact same style as the dot to be changed. And then you have something right here that says input, and in straight brackets type equals checkbox, colon checked. Then you have this little squiggly and the dot to be changed. You've got a totally well, it's not totally different. It's background color green, But then the color white, the border is different, 7 pixels green outset, but the size is the same. And the width 100% and the height 100 pixels, that's the same. So what this lets you do is it takes the checkbox checked and then it uses this .to be changed. So it toggles from this red background color to this green background color. And hide gives us the same space where the button would be, but giving it the visibility hidden means that when we use this class, it disappears. I should start at the top of this page and just work my way down like a waterfall. The December.html page starts off with an opening HTML tag. Then you've got your head that goes from here to here. Inside the head, we have a title, which when you open the December.html by itself, here's the title up here in the tab, but I actually have it opening inside this iframe, so you can't even see this tab up here because it's hidden. It only shows you the body of the page itself in the iframe. But back to the page itself, we have 2 scripts here that help us. They're supposed to be assists for cookie handling, and the first script takes us to ajax.googleapis.com, and then there's the rest of that. And the second script takes us to cdn.jsdeliver.net, and then there's more to that. This is supposed to pull certain code so that we can do cookie handling with less typing ourselves. But like I said, even though I pulled those in, my cookies did not work correctly across all browsers. Then we've got a link here. Link rel style sheet type equals text / CSS and the href style purple.css. I had a script that let the user pick between each of these styles. There was a style green.css, a style red.css, and a style white.css. These don't really apply to this particular thing. This style switcher.js JavaScript file was going to do the work for that to let the user go back and forth, but I'm not using it. But if I were using it, this is how I would pull it in. Script type equals text / JavaScript, src equals style switcher.js and script. But I might use this for something different in the future. Now the style itself in the head, I've got hashtag button, which means ID button, text align left. What that means is the text that's on the button is all being aligned to the left-hand side of the button. If I change that to right, all of this text will slide over here to the right of the button. If I have text aligned center, all of these lines will configure itself in the center of the button. Then I've got a style for label, which is color purple, font weight bolder. My label in this case is what I'm using in this section of the table. And I've got the background of purple, and the text align is to the left, and it's a bolder font. Then I've got this dot hide, which I already went over. It basically gives me the setup for a background color, a border, a width, and a height. But the top field being visibility hidden means that when I use that dot hide, you're not going to actually see the element. To be changed, I already went over, and I already went over this input type equals checkbox checked, squiggle, dot to be changed. So we are going to go from a background color of red to a background color of green each time we check the checkbox or uncheck the checkbox. That is shown. Well, actually, I have these checkboxes set as disabled, so I have to take the I have to put an X in front of disabled or a Z, anything that misspells it. This is rent. I have misspelled disabled, so when I run this, this is no longer disabled, and now you see how the toggle works. When it's checked, we get the background of green. When it's unchecked, we get the background of red. The reason that I wanted it to start off as disabled is I didn't want to come in here and then be able to just check stuff as if it's been paid and then go about my merry way. I want to leave it as unpaid until I physically do it. Then when I physically do it, I'm going to come in here for rent and I'm going to make sure that disabled is properly spelled and I'm going to save it. At which point, let me take that disabled off again. Say I come in here and I let this checkbox work, and I pay the rent, and I fill in these things on the button so that I know how much I paid, and that if I have a balance or if I made a partial payment, what my balance is, and when my next due date is, if I have a partial balance. When I go in here and then disable this after I add all this information here, here, and here, and then make it green, and then save it, then when I disable it with the correct spelling and I go in here, now it's stuck on green and I can't turn it red again. This is what I wanted Cookies to do for me, but I don't have the code to do it properly. So that's the gist of how that works. Now this is back to the ability to change. So I basically went over those: hide style, to be changed style, and this input type checkbox checked and to be changed toggle. I made a class called .next month and I gave it the background color of gray. I could have just as easily called it wrong month because it basically applies to the days that start my table row that are not included in the actual month that I'm dealing with. This right here is dealing with November days. This right here is dealing with January days, but I don't want them highlighted because I only want December days highlighted. So how I did that was I created this class and gave it a different background color, and then for those particular table data cells right here that stood for the 29th, class equals next month makes that table data cell gray. Class equals next month makes the table data cell where I gave the number 30 gray. But table data cell that starts the first doesn't have a class in it at all. It's just a TD tag. To go back to that, let's go back to the beginning of the table itself. I basically went over all the styles, and that's the end of the head. Here's the beginning of the body and the beginning of the table. Our first table row has a TH, a table header, with an ID of month and a call span of 7 and a text of December 2015. If I go back here to December again, that's this with the purple background. Its call span of 7 means here's 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns, 5 columns, 6 columns, 7 columns. This entire strip, this header, takes up the length of 7 columns. So we're giving it the call span of 7. The ID of month, if I go to my style sheet in here, style sheet, here is pound month, that means ID month, background color purple, color white, that's the text color, and text align left. If I made this text align right, then the words December 2015 would be over here on the right hand side of the table. If I changed it to center, it would be in the middle. If I didn't want this purple background, let's say I wanted the background color to be blue instead, change it to blue, and the color of the text we can change to yellow, and the text align we can move it from the left side to the right side. And when I do that and hit refresh, you see December went way over here. It's got a yellow font and it's blue, it's not purple anymore. But since I'm actually using this label for the checkbox, and I'm using that with a purple color, I want the header to match the label of my bill. So I'm going to come in here and click my insertion point and hit Control Z until these go back to the styles that I started with. And then I'm going to hit Save All and go back in here and hit December again. And yeah, it goes back to how I had it before. Go back. So that was my first table row. My second table row has quite a few things in it, not just one table header. It's got many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 table headers in the one table row, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday are those headers. So that's this part right here. One row with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 TH or table headers. The next table row I have is going to have quite a few things. It starts up here and it's going to give me a whole week's worth of things. That table row goes all the way to here. And in that one table row there's one table data cell, and look at all the stuff that's in that, 2 table data cells, 3 table data cells, 4 table data cells, 5 table data cells, 6 table data cells, and finally 7 table data cells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 squares in that table row, and that is going to have these numbers which correspond to the days of the month. So going back to that very first table data cell, we have TD, class equals next month, which I told you is going to give me a background color of gray. We have a number 29 here because we're talking about the 29th of the previous month. Here's that span tag. Span goes from here to here, and we have class hide. That means that everything inside the span class is going to get that style of hide, which hide is this. It's got a background color of red and a color of white. It's got a border, a width, and a height, but because it's got visibility hidden, you don't see it. If I take my class equals hide and misspell it to class equals Z hide and save that and open this up and click December again, it's going to pop up. It's no longer hidden because I misspelled the class. If you misspell the class name, it's not going to obey the styles in the class. So you can do this anytime you have to put a new bill on there. You just misspell that class hide and then it'll pop up, and then you can actually turn this into a brand new bill for the month. But at this point I don't need to do that. Okay. What is in it, even though you can't see it, is input type equals checkbox, ID equals option November 29th, checked, and X disabled. I misspelled disabled. If I misspell hide so you can see it, and I take off this, and I leave X disabled, save it and run it, that means that I can toggle. My checkbox is not disabled. That means that you can function with it. You can change those colors. But if I change that to disabled, save it, and then run it, I can't change those colors anymore. I can see it, but I can't do anything with the checkbox. There's no functionality there. So that's that line. Input type equals checkbox, ID equals option, November 29th checked, and X disabled. Then I have a label for the checkbox, and that's if I were to create a bill. I would put something like new bill here. That would be the label for the checkbox. Again, let me unhide it so you can see the difference. and let me run it. See, new bill here. We've got rent here, electric here. The reason new bill here comes underneath the checkbox is because it's too long. If I just said new bill instead of new bill here, didn't make it quite as long, it would be to the side of the checkbox. See, new bill, rent, electric. That's how you create a label for this checkbox, the text for it. You create this label control and put the text inside of it, or label element, I mean. So I'll just put some dashes in there as placeholders, and I'll hide it again. Then the next thing that's in here, even though you can't see it, is input, class equals to be changed, type button, ID of button, value equals due, and I've got the dollar symbol with some dashes, paid with some more dollar sign and some dashes, balance, and due, all of that in these double quotes. And then I have an on-click event that says toggle state and in parentheses this, and span tag and TD. And this particular TD gets copied and pasted over and over and over again. And the only thing that we do is we either hide it by spelling hide correctly, or we put an X in front of hide or a Z in front of hide to misspell it so that it is not hidden. And then if we need to put a bill there, we put the name of the bill in the label. We put the amounts here, how much is due, amounts here, how much you paid, what your balance is, and when you promise, the next due date that you promise whatever the balance is in there as a reminder. So I want to hide this because I don't want to see it. So I have to properly spell my class. Run it again. And I basically do this over and over and over again until the only place that I have bills, I misspell hide so that it's not hidden, and everywhere else where I don't have a bill, I make sure that my span ID of hide is there. And if I were to misspell every hide, we would have a red button in every single one of these squares, and you would be able to toggle it. As long as I didn't have the toggle disabled, the checkbox disabled, you'd be able to change every single one of these from red to green, and you'd be able to fill in some kind of label text for the text box for the actual bill. So this goes on from the 29th to the 30th, and all this is just nothing more than copy and paste all the way down until we get to the end of the span, the end of the TD, the end of the TR, the last table row. And then down here we have a script. This says that this is for checkbox cookie handling. Like I said, I tried this on all browsers. It didn't work on all browsers. So I didn't take the script out. I still have the script here, but it's kind of like useless if I can't rely on it on all browsers. So I'm not even going to bother reading it all. But basically, there's a function handle button click button. There's another function update button status. There's another function update cookie. There's another function repopulate form elements. And then using jQuery, we've got a bunch of other statements here that start with dollar signs and such. And that ends that script, the ends the table, and the body, and the HTML. And again, this is what the December page looks like itself, just a table with a bunch of cells in it. And I want to use my open bills page to actually open up December. Here's the December, and this was November, which is a little bit different. I've got them some things toggled to green and some things to red, depending on if any payments have been made yet or not.